Good morning, students, and welcome to another online biology classroom of St. Michael's Academy. Today I am continuing digestion and absorption part 2. So let's start. So in this slide, first we are going to discuss about digestion, absorption and assimilation of protein. So mechanical digestion of protein begins in the mouth and continues in the stomach and small intestine. Chemical digestion of protein begins in the stomach and ends in the small intestine. The body recycles amino acids to make more proteins. Once a protein source reduces and reaches your stomach, hydrochloric acid and enzymes called proteases break it down into smaller chains of amino acids. Amino acids are joined together by peptides, which are broken by proteases. From your stomach, these smaller chains of amino acids move into your small intestine. So digestion of protein completes here. Now absorption of protein starts. In adults, essentially all protein is absorbed as tripeptides, dipeptides or amino acids, and this process occurs in the duodenum or proximal jejunum of the small intestine. The peptides and or amino acids pass through the interstitial brush border by facilitative diffusion or active transport. And with this, absorption of protein ends here. Now the last step is assimilation of proteins. Amino acids are absorbed and are used for building the proteins required by the cells of the body. Excess amino acids are converted into glucose in the liver. Assimilation of glucose is actively absorbed and is used as a primary source of energy. So this is the total process. Now see the diagram. First, dietary protein 100 gram, approximate sign, this is 100 gram per day. It's coming through mouth, then through esophagus it reaches to the stomach. Here endogenous protein approximate 100 gram per day. So here proteases is the enzyme and pepsin is there. Now it goes to pancreas. There trypsin, chymotrypsin, elastase and carboxypeptidase. These enzymes are there. And you can see HCO3 minus ion, that is bicarbonate ion actually, also present over here. And pH is approximate 6. In stomach, its pH is approximate to 2. Now it will come to intestinal portion, that is intestinal lumen. Small intestine, aminopeptidase is there, enzyme. And at last, fecal nitrogen excretion that measures protein absorption's efficiency. Hope so you have understood this diagram. Please try to draw the diagram with this process. Second one is digestion, absorption and assimilation of carbohydrates. Most carbohydrate digestion occurs in the small intestine. Thanks to a suite of enzymes, pancreatic amylase is secreted from the pancreas into the small intestine, and like salivary amylase, it breaks starch down to small oligosaccharides containing 3 to 10 glucose molecules and maltose. Digestion of carbohydrates is performed by several enzymes. Starch and glycogen are broken down into glucose by amylase and maltase. Sucrose or table sugar and lactose or milk sugar are broken down by sucrose and lactase respectively. So here digestion of carbohydrate ends. Now absorption of carbohydrate. Glucosidases or GSS such as maltase, dextranase, sucrase and glycoamylase aid in carbohydrate absorption by cleaving complex carbohydrates to yield glucose. Only monosaccharides such as glucose or fructose can be absorbed into the bloodstream. And the third one is assimilation of carbohydrates. So assimilation of nutrients happens in the small intestine. By the time the carbohydrates in your burger bun reach the small intestine, they are broken down into individual sugars like glucose. The microvilli contain small pumps that take sugar from the intestinal lumen and move it into the intestinal epithelial cells. That means all complex carbohydrates breaks down ultimately into the simpler one, that is glucose. Now see the diagram. Absorption of carbohydrates portion has been shown over here. Digested food from alimentary canal to bloodstream. At the time of absorption of carbohydrates, what actually happens? Second one, monosaccharide is absorbed in small intestine. Remember this, monosaccharide means glucose. Next step, sodium glucose transport protein SGLT in membrane helps absorb glucose and galactose. And the last step, fructose absorbed is converted to glucose inside cell. Now see, glucose absorption occurs in index, and I have given this picture. Core of villi or core of villus, epithelial cell of small intestine, and the last one is lumen of small intestine. So this is the actual process happens at the time of absorption of carbohydrates. Actually, this is the main portion of carbohydrate after digestion. Now the next one is digestion, absorption and assimilation of lipid or fat. Digestion of lipids primarily occurs in the small intestine with small contributions by the stomach and salivary glands. The charring action of gastric motility partially emulsifies ingested lipids with the aid of dietary proteins which can act as weak emulsifiers. Next step, in the step of absorption, chylomicrons are formed in the intestinal cells and carry lipids from the digestive tract into circulation. Short and medium fatty chains can be absorbed directly into the bloodstream from the intestinal microvillus because they are water soluble. Cholesterol absorption is hindered by foods high in fiber. The last step is assimilation of lipid. So lipid breakdown products include unesterified free fatty acid or acyl carnitine and lysophospholipid, catabolic products that are known to accumulate in injured cells as a result of phospholipid degradation. They have a detergent effect on membranes. The last one, you can say the breakdown of lipid also. Now see the diagram. In this diagram, you see the first step is chewing and saliva begins digestion of fat. That is, suppose egg, because egg is fat obviously, so that's why they have given example as egg. Second one, you can see stomach turns triacyl glycols or glycerols into diglycerides and fatty acid by acylglycerols. Please pronounce these enzymes properly. Now, in the next step, in case of small intestine, combines bile with separated fats. Next one is carbohydrate metabolism. Carbohydrate metabolism is a fundamental biochemical process that ensures a constant supply of energy to living cells. The most important carbohydrate is glucose, which can be broken down via glycolysis, enter into the Krebs cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation to generate ATP. Carbohydrate metabolism involves glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain or ETC. Now, a diagrammatic representation of carbohydrate metabolism has been shown here. Carbohydrate, simple and complex. Simple carbohydrates like monosaccharides and disaccharides. They are glucose, fructose, galactose, and disaccharides are maltose, lactose, and sucrose. Complex or polysaccharides type of carbohydrates are starches, fibers, and glycogen. Now the next step is protein metabolism. Protein metabolism denotes the various biochemical processes responsible for the synthesis of proteins and amino acids, that is anabolism, and the breakdown of proteins by catabolism. Essential amino acids must be consumed and are made in other organisms. The amino acids are joined by peptide bonds, making a polypeptide chain. Now see the diagrammatic representation where glucose by glycolysis and gluconeogenesis, these are the opposite process actually, happens. Some amino acids, that is pyruvate, converted into acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA is the enzyme. So with the help of acetyl-CoA that relates with fatty acids, ketone bodies, and some amino acids. Through the citric acid cycle, some amino acid where some amino acids are there. That means acetyl-CoA is the enzyme which helps in protein metabolism. Next one is lipid metabolism. Lipid metabolism is a complex process that involves multiple steps involving the dietary intake of lipids, that is exogenous, or the production of lipids within the body, that is endogenous, to degradation or transformation, that is catabolism, into several lipid containing structures in the body. Lipid metabolism entails the oxidation of fatty acids to either generate energy or synthesize new lipids from smaller constituent molecules. Lipid metabolism is associated with carbohydrate metabolism as products of glucose such as acetyl-CoA can be converted into lipids. You can see in diagram dietary lipids, beta oxidation, through beta oxidation de novo synthesis, lipid metabolism occurs, metabolic signaling occurs, mitogenic signaling they gets, and insulin resistance through the insulin resistance. And metabolic signaling actually relates with metabolic syndrome, and mitogenic signaling relates with cancer. Next topic is BMR and caloric values. The energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water through 1 degree Celsius, now usually defined as 4.1868 joules, is called calorie. Now calorific value or caloric value of carbohydrates, proteins and fats is described in the diagram. You see, protein calorific value is 4 kilocalorie per gram. Carbohydrates calorific value is 4 kilocalorie per gram, but calorific value of fat is 9 kilocalorie per gram. Now comes to BMR. The basal metabolic rate or BMR is the amount of energy that is expended at rest in a neutral environment after the digestive system has been inactive for about 12 hours. It is the rate of one's metabolism when waking in the morning after fasting during sleep. So you can say one formula is there, BMR formula, according to Harris Benedict. For men, it is BMR is equal to 66.47 plus 6.24 into weight in pounds plus 12.7 into height in inches minus 6.755 into age. For women, it is BMR is equal to 655.1 plus 4.35 into weight in pounds plus 4.7 into height in inches minus 4.7 into age. What is respiratory quotient? It's a very important question. The respiratory quotient or RQ or respiratory quotient is a dimensionless number used in calculations of basal metabolic rate or BMR when estimated from carbon dioxide production. It is calculated from the ratio of carbon dioxide produced by the body to oxygen consumed by the body. So, the respiratory quotient is defined as the ratio of carbon dioxide produced to oxygen consumed per unit time by an organism. That is, RQ is equal to V CO2 divided by VO2. V represents volume. Oxygen uptake during respiration can be measured using a respirometer. Now, what is egestion? Excess water is absorbed back into the body in the large intestine. This is stored in the rectum, the lower part of the large intestine, until we are ready to go to the toilet. It then comes out of the rectum through the anus as feces. This process is called egestion. In the diagram, I have shown the differences between excretion and egestion. You can see in excretion, total excretory system, that means kidney, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra, everything is required. But egestion actually occurs in intestine, small intestine and large intestine, and then it will come out through rectum. In case of excretion, urine comes out, and in case of egestion, feces comes out. So this is the basic difference between excretion and egestion. For any doubts or queries, please email me at sudeshna1.sma@outlook.com. We also welcome your responses by way of your feedback and views on the PPTs or videos at feedback.stmichaelsacademy@gmail.com. Thank you, students, and have a nice day.